Not long ago, we were talking about the Mediterranean diet and some wonderful foods. And so Andrea Holwegner is back, registered nutritionist, and we are going to battle the myths associated with pasta and carbs and breads. And so
this is a good news story for people that are foodies like me.
Yeah, which is good. So that's okay. Hold on, you're doing all right. You know, what seems to be the major confusion when we immediately associate kind of breads and pastas with being bad?
Sure. You know, I think there's a lot of confusion around carbohydrate in general. There's so many fad diets that say you should get rid of carbs or get rid of wheat or get rid of gluten. And what we know, of course, there's some people that have gluten sensitivities, that is really important that they follow a gluten-free diet. But carbohydrate as a whole is what our brain runs on exclusively for energy. We also know that the more active you are, of course, the more your muscles are going to need carbohydrate as a gasoline source for energy. So certainly not something we can eliminate. It's just understanding, you know, how do you balance it out so that you've got, you know, good recommended portion sizes for your needs.
Okay, so then people are going to make the choice. So they're going to choose to, I want to have some of the bread, I want to have this pasta. Difference then between going with the whole wheat, the whole grain, because then you're looking at the counter and there's a lot of variety in front of you.
Sure, yeah, and you know, traditionally, of course, in the Mediterranean region, there was more of that just traditional white semolina pasta, which is still the staple. But then we've got different options. So there's a whole grain style pasta, which of course would have additional fiber for a bit more fullness and digestive health. There's also the multigrain style pastas. So Barilla Plus would be an example. And in that product, you've got some additional protein added, some additional omega-3 fats, and also some additional fiber. And they've pulled that from key Mediterranean ingredients. So they've taken, you know, things like chickpeas and oats and spelt and ground flax and just added some good nutritional value without still sacrificing that taste and texture that people really like about white pasta.
Okay, talking about taste and texture, you also have kids to put into the mix. And so sometimes you're trying to trick them, or you come up, the different shapes have something different to them. And we're going to look at you. There's two different pastas here that we wanted to, because these ones, I called it the bow tie, right? There's a fancy Italian name for this somewhere. So what are we looking at the difference here? Because they're two different products, even though they have similar coloring.
You can see the traditional white style semolina pasta, you can see color-wise is in there, and it's, you know, of course, when we cook pasta al dente style, it's got that nice chewy texture, and of course that's what chefs like to make sure that we're doing, and then also what nutritionists would also recommend, because when you cook the pasta that style, it helps to reduce the overall glycemic load of your meal. And all pastas, whether we're talking whites or multigrains or whole grains, are actually low glycemic. So that's what we're after. It keeps us fuller a little longer and sustains blood sugar control a little bit better.
So there's lots of options.
There's a lot of options.
Okay, and there's the options, and then this is when you got to be smart, because portions, that also comes into play, and I think that's, you'd be dealing with your clients that sometimes on just seeing what's on the plate.
Of course, and you know, it's always about filling up our eyes more than filling up our stomachs. A lot of the times is what we do as dietitians. And so if you think about, you know, obviously we all need different amounts of food overall and different amounts of pastas and breads and grains in our diet, depending on our age and our activity level, gender. But a good starting place for people would be about 1 to 2 cups of cooked pasta. And so that would be, as a visual, about the size of a baseball, would be about a cup. So if you start with that, and then you load in your veggies. So, you know, we got lots of good veggie Mediterranean style things available here. So if you roast a red pepper, you slice up the eggplant, brush it with some olive oil, grill that or pan fry that. Same thing with your zucchini. And you've got a good, you know, 1-2 cups of veggies in this meal with your pasta. Top it with a little bit of a nice strong cheese or a little bit of lean protein like chicken breast or some prawns. We've got a beautiful full-size plate, but again, not too much extra calories.
Well, you've given the options right there. People are trying to kind of not, you know, jot this down and go, what is she putting in there? And so, and that becomes you know, an interesting part. You did earlier mention, though, that some people have certain, you know, food allergies.
Sure.
So there's certain things that they should be looking out for if there's sensitivities in some of the pastas. Is that right?
Yeah, you know, and you're probably speaking to sort of who needs to be gluten-free.
Right, and to watch it.
And so we know people with celiac disease, which affects about 1 in every 100 people, absolutely need to follow a gluten-free diet. And that's important just so that they don't damage their digestive health. Then there's also maybe about 2 to 7% of the population that have a gluten sensitivity. And again, not medically necessary for them to take out gluten from a damaging the gut perspective, but digestion-wise, they just don't feel great eating a lot of gluten products. So For the rest of us, the good news is we can still enjoy lots of pasta and bread again, and certainly, as we've talked about, the staple on the Mediterranean diet.
Which I was, I was interested to hear about. I don't know why I didn't assume that it would be up there for sure. All right, so the top 3 things that you want people to know as they're heading out and they're trying to get their mindset around putting dinner on the table, putting a lunch, or putting a combination together. What they should
Sure. Top 3 things. Okay, first off, I would say carbs are not bad. You need them for your brain and your muscles. Second is really looking at overall portion size management. Start with about that cup of cooked pasta, which is the size of about a baseball. Add lots of veggies, add some good protein for fullness, and we've got a great balanced meal. And thirdly, just keeping in mind that grains are not bad. I think they're getting a bad rap. We need them for overall health, for good complex carbs for our body, for B vitamins and fiber. And of course, you can check out the Barilla Plus line if you're looking for that good texture of that white style pasta, but again, some extra nutrition.
I'm going to try this out. I'm going to try those combinations out. We have friends in from Belgium. Chloe and Louise, they're looking for lunch, so I think I have a couple of options to work with them with today.
Absolutely. And you can go on to Barilla Plus, you can go on to barilla.ca for some great Mediterranean-inspired pasta recipes.
Great. You gave us some wonderful ideas and great information. Thank you so much, Andrea.
Thanks for having me.